Okay, there we go.
We're live.
Yeah, there we go. All right, what's up,
Wait,
everybody?
wait, who's here today?
There you go.
You guys, Push is here. I never have him on Tuesdays, so we have a special
Try.
guest.
Right. Absolutely. Um, and for this is for episode 51 of Office Hours. We're talking about organizing a tour. You can check out the last 50 episodes
No,
below.
hold up. I just really want to thank everyone who people like Venmoed us, like congratulations
Right.
on $50. Congratulations on 50 episodes. People were like in my DMs. I just really want to thank people for supporting us.
Right.
We have Sto and I have some like big things coming. So like 50 is just a number. It doesn't mean anything, but it gives us an excuse to celebrate. So I just want to take a minute to thank everybody for the love and the support and like all the different ways that y'all show that. Yeah, but today is episode 51. This is Office Hours. I'm Nora, that's Sto. And today we're talking about tours.
Right. And I think this is a fun one to talk about, mostly because I think and we're gonna go through all this too. I think there's this preconceived notion that you kind of like have to have permission to go on tour, or you have to wait for a label to fund a tour for you, or something like that. And that's just not the case in a lot of circumstances in music, but especially with touring, because I think, and Nora, I'm sure you've run into this too, where artists are like, I really want to go on tour someday, and it's like, well, if you have the base and you're prepared, you can definitely do that. Now, the other part I definitely want to make sure we throw in is like you still have to prepare. I think sometimes when we say like, yeah, like you can do a tour, some artists are like, all right, bet we're gonna do it right now, like this second. Grab a couple homies, let's do it. And if you have the resources and the fan base, sure, but you still have to do that necessary prep work beforehand before you can just go on tour. Go ahead.
Let's talk about that first.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is that prep work? And it's building your fan base. It's having your like conversion systems in place so that if someone sees you at a show on tour, they convert into fans and you can keep in touch with them. It's all the kind of logistical stuff, but also it's being a good performer. It's knowing how to control a crowd. It's knowing the lyrics to your own songs. It's having a stage performance. And that doesn't mean that you have to have like 26 backup
hardcore
dancers
choreography, yeah.
for costume changes, but it does mean that you practice performing. And so I hear a lot of artists who actually someone DM'd me this question recently and they were like, I'm just starting out performing. How do I go on tour? And don't go on tour yet. Like,
right.
Build practice and practice at home, but it's not the same thing practicing at home or rehearsing like in your bedroom as it is being in front of a live audience. And so start by going to open mics, going to local shows, opening for going to jam sessions, going into places where you can be in front of a live audience, where you can practice and kind of figure out what your performance is, but also so you can build relationships with other artists and other performers, because a year and a half from now, those are going to be the people that you're going to call up and say, hey, we're going to rent a van. We're going to go to these 3 cities. Do you want to come with us? So a lot of artists, I think, want to, skip that stage, but also because you think, there's something about like, oh, I'm going on tour that makes you feel like you're an artist, as if that
right
legitimacy to your creativity. And that's a fallacy. You don't have to go on tour to be a legit artist. So moving away from that idea and really first setting up your foundation.
Might have lost Nora there. Not sure.
Oh.
Okay, there we go. You cut out for like a second. I'm not sure what happened there.
So that's just really important, is make sure that you know how to perform, you're rehearsing, you're practicing, you have all those systems in place so that when you do start performing, you leverage those new audiences.
Mm-hmm. And because the thing is, you're still growing your audience as you're performing. but you also have to have an audience to perform for. So I think sometimes there's like this, I don't know, discrepancy between like, okay, like I want to tour, but I also don't necessarily have the fan base to warrant that. So again, we're trying to make it realistic that you can go to all these places and still have people show up and stuff like that. The other thing I wanted to, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
I was just going to move to the next question. So you might as well.
So, I mean, what I was going to say is like, I think what do we mean when we say tour? And I think for a lot of artists that means like 26 cities, like
sold out stadiums.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be that way. Start by going to one city, two cities, three cities at a time. Those of you, like I'm in California, it's really hard to do multi-state tours because, hold on. It's really hard to do multi-state tours because California is huge. But those of you on the East Coast, you can hit 4 states on the train really, really easy. So really it's looking at, and I wouldn't even, so one, it's like releasing yourself of the expectation of what going on tour means, especially for those of you who are earlier new in this part of your career.
Exactly.
And replace that with, and don't look at your analytics, because if you only have a small number of followers or subscribers, those analytics are not going to give you the full picture. So focus instead on where do you have contacts? Where do you have relationships? Where is it easy for you to go to, right? Like I could go to Columbus because I know Sto is there. I have a couch to crash on and Sto will introduce me to people. Or Sto can come to LA and he has a couch to crash on and I will introduce him to people. It has nothing to do with where Spotify says my audience is. It's where's easy to start. And that's often a really easy place. That's an easy way to start traveling to get on new stages in front of new audiences. From there, you can start to string together different cities. You can start to string together different dates. You can start to string things together. But don't let that be the thing that holds you back. If, especially like financially, sometimes it's not feasible. So you can do 1 show, 2 shows, use that money to then invest in the flight that's going to take you further out. Like you can really kind of think of it as
you can spread those dates out.
Right.
Like that. And that's what Nora means by those expectations. Like you don't have to be performing literally every single day for it to be a tour. If you can only do a couple dates, you know, or like 1 date a week, that's still a tour. Like if you take a look at some flyers next time you're perusing the internet when people are talking about their tours and stuff, like sure, big name artists may be on the road every single freaking day, but like independent artists and even artists that just aren't trying to be out there like that, like their shows are more spread out. So it's okay to again do what works for you, and honestly that's part of it too. Like I feel like some artists like I have to perform in LA at some point to like validate this, and like I get it. Like as someone who has performed like in California and stuff like that, I get it. Like it's completely different than performing at home. I get it. But like when you're able to, if you take where you're at locally, do a show there, maybe do another show within the state, and maybe a show or 2 within the states around you, like that's an easy tour that you can put together, even with, again, like if you have your stuff together, you have performance footage, you have, you know, your fan base tuned into you, like they will show up. And then things kind of evolve from there.
Yeah, I made a face when you said, oh, I have to perform in LA, because I can't tell you how many artists come to LA and like
and perform for that matter. Yeah.
In LA, but
nothing.
No one comes or nothing comes out of it. And so it's the same way when people are like, oh, I want to go to this festival, and they go, but like there's 2 people at their show because
there's a billion names.
Right. So it's not about, I want to be clear, it's not about the quantity of people that show up, but it's really about thinking, why is this a goal for me? Why have I determined that LA, for example, is a destination, and does it make strategic sense? And so LA if you want to say that you know, if it's like bragging rights, that's fine, but be clear with yourself that that's what it's about, because otherwise you can take that money, take that time, and invest it, as Sto said, in shows that are closer to you, and then you can literally like build out
Yeah, exactly.
a circle of support. And that's effective also because now you're building that core base that's going to do your promo work, that's going
Hmm.
to be excited and hype you up when you do go to those bigger markets. That's going to ensure that the crowd comes in. I think the other thing to think about is this is a really great, and I stress this all the time, like music business is all about relationships. A great way to travel is to do stage exchanges with people. So if you have access to a local show and you're like, dang, I've done my local show so many times,
Right.
fine. Use that as an opportunity to build a relationship with someone and bring that artist out to your space. And then you go out to their local show. And now not
You
only
guys perform together. Yeah.
you can perform together, you can create a song together, you can shoot a video, you don't even have to be on the song, just be in the video together.
Right.
Or do Instagram lives where you're like Q&Aing each other, or just all that kind of stuff where the show then becomes part of this relationship that fans get to see you all have, which is exciting. Fans love to see like artists interact with other artists. And so now that's what we mean when we talk about cross-pollinating. Their audience and their resources become yours, and your audience and resources become theirs.
Exactly. And again, I think when because again, like it's really about stringing some shows together. It's not about, I don't know. I sometimes, like, again, we're trying to keep things realistic in perspective, but at the same time, I feel like artists also overthink it, and think that they have to have, again, a certain experience or perform in a certain place or whatever. But if people are tuning in and people show up, like those are places you can perform in. So as we kind of get past like halftime and stuff like that, like how do we start that process? And I think we have an episode maybe about landing your own shows. I can't remember, but we might not. I'll have to look through the library or whatever. But
51 episodes is a lot to keep track of. Just saying.
Right. Exactly. So what does that process look like? Because I think some artists, again, like are waiting for a label to do that for them, or waiting for, sometimes I don't really know, a talent agency or something like that to like, hey, you want, or like another artist to like go on tour. Yeah.
Let's talk about that though, because I think one of the things I get a lot of questions about is artists who have done this kind of first level and then they're like, now what? And we've talked about submitting for festivals and things like that, which is a great way to get on. Like, it's a great excuse to travel. It's a great way to get on new stages, especially if you're going to a larger festival. Make sure you book some time after to network, to get in studios, to do all the, you're going to be at the festival, you're going to meet a bunch of people, and make sure you have time after to like really, like finalize or close those like relationships that you've built. Don't overlook small festivals and small events. Like, everyone's trying to get
Please don't, for the love of God.
South by, but the small ones are really, really where you're going to get the higher conversion. But the thing that people ask me a lot about is, oh, well, should I get a booking agent? And what a booking agent does is a booking agent will find gigs for you. So artists who are trying to do those like everyday tours are often booking those with a booking agent who has relationships with venues and things like that. And the booking agent will get a percentage, usually it's like 10% of that tour. So the artist is not paying the booking agent out of pocket. A good booking agent is only going to take you on if you can sell out venues, or if you are a draw. So because the booking agent makes their money if you make your money. If you don't make money, the booking agent doesn't make money.
So you should not be hiring a booking agent to land you shows if the work has not been done first, because it's going to be harder to land those opportunities, and you're booking, and then you're just wasting. It's almost like the manager conversation almost.
Yes.
Not exactly, but it's pretty much the same, where if you're not ready yet, it does not make sense to look for a booking agent, because a booking agent then is going to look around and be like, I don't know, I'm not really getting anything for you. And then you're going to be like, well, what the hell? So you have to have done the work first. That's why we structured this conversation like that, because you have to have done the work first. That's so important.
Now, you can, if you're like a working artist, you've got kids, you're stressed, like you can have an assistant or someone on your team whose job is to find performance opportunities for you. They're doing research, they are sending your deck out. That's different than a booking agent. So if you do need help, like thinking about, and we talk about this in the Building Your Team episode, rather than thinking this is the job title that I need, you can look at what are the things you actually need help with and then build that out. So I think that distinction between a booking agent and someone who can just help you navigate the bookings, or people ask a lot about, do I need a road manager? Maybe you do. Maybe you don't.
Right. Maybe you don't. Right.
It's not a necessity. A road manager makes sure that like the venue has what they need for you, that your transportation is figured out, they that everyone's like on time, all that kind of stuff. So if you have a big enough squad and all that stuff, yeah, maybe you need a road manager. If it's just you and your DJ, maybe it's more worthwhile to invest in a photographer, or maybe it's more, so really thinking about when you are on the road, touring in whatever capacity, being really intentional about what do you want to get out of it and who are the best people to help you achieve that. And sometimes it's one thing and sometimes it's going to be another thing depending on what your goals are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then I guess this is making me think that we haven't done an episode on this. So like reaching out to venues is obviously it's a process and stuff like that. And that's why we say like a booking manager is not someone who's immediately just gonna, like, you pay them and then they get you 5 shows in a row like that. It doesn't work like that. So, and that's why you can kind of do this on your own, especially if, number one, you're doing it like we mentioned before, building relationships with people locally and stuff like that. You can obviously just reach out to venues that way, but then it's the same thing out of state. It's not different. Because I think a lot of artists like want to branch out and stuff like that, but they're also like, I don't know how to get on stage. It's almost the same process. You still just reach out, but that's why it's important to have your stuff organized beforehand, because then you can just send all your assets to whatever venue you're trying to perform at. And then they're not just going to have to like guess based off of your social media and whatnot. And so that's an easy way to communicate with venues out of state and get opportunities that way. Because then once you start, again, stringing those together, you can just kind of branch out. And the next thing you know, you're performing wherever you want.
So side note, thank you all for hanging out with us. We do this live so that if you have any questions while we're here, feel free to drop those and we'll answer them in real time. Right. And if you are watching this after the fact, we'll still come back and answer your questions. So drop them in the comments. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe and like and all that good stuff. But really, don't be shy about asking questions, because I think there's so many, I say this all the time, there's so many misconceptions around the music industry. This is why Sto and I do this. So if you don't ask, you're never going to know. I think one of the things Sto that you're starting to talk about is, I think artists have this expectation that going on tour means like someone's going to magically book them and they get hired to perform at all these places. Sometimes that happens. That's not always the case. So you can still curate your own events, right? Book your own, schedule your own, book your own place, schedule your own tour without waiting for someone to pick you, right?
Right.
And sometimes that actually you end up making more money, because oftentimes, can we just be clear? If anyone is asking you to pay them to be an opener, that is pay to play, and probably something you should say no to unless it makes real strategic sense for you.
Like real strategic sense.
Real strategic sense. But if
AKA don't do it.
Yeah. So like sometimes people will be like, yeah, well, if you give me $500, you can open for so-and-so in the next 3 cities.
No.
Yeah,
you could probably get $500 yourself back in each city if you like actually are doing what you're supposed to be doing, like hopping on like paying someone else to perform and open for someone. It doesn't make sense. And like, especially in the case where, I don't know, especially if they're actually charging you to open, chances are you haven't been put on a flyer. Chances are you probably won't be put on a flyer. Third, the management company and like the artists themselves, they're not going to push you or promote the fact that you're opening. And then a lot of time,
I just think that's so important. I just think the artist probably doesn't even know you're on the lineup. So a lot of times artists will take
no chance
because they want to say, well, I opened for so and so, but so and so doesn't even know that you're on the show unless maybe. And usually you go on early, so they're not even there until you get to the venue. Like, yes, Cheetah Girl J says that's a red flag. Oh, so hold on, just real quick.
Oh, do you have it? I'm trying to find the spaces I'm trying to find it.
So
I can just put it in the chat.
Oh, I can't multitask.
Okay, well I got it. I got it.
Thank you, Sto. But I just wanted, for folks who don't know what Cheetah Girl is talking about, we do a Spaces about once a month on Twitter. We touched on some of this, so Sto is going to put it in the chat for you to access it. It's also up on my Twitter and Sto's Twitter. So yes, the recording is still available for the next few weeks. Sorry, going off track, and Sto is multitasking.
Yeah, don't worry, I got it. I'm about to put it in the chat right now.
Thank you. So yeah, so that's the thing about opening for people, like pay to play and stuff like that. Where were we?
just that with, in terms of that you don't, number one, that you don't need permission from someone else to go on tour and stuff like that. But also, as you're planning out your tour, you should not be paying someone to open or to perform at their place. They should be paying you, period. Or again, letting you sell your merch and stuff like that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Do you always get paid when you're on tour with someone else?
And I mean, I think it depends. Hopefully the spaces shows up. I put it in the chat, but I'm not sure if it's coming up or not. But it does depend, because there's some cases, again, if you're touring with like your homies maybe, and you're still trying to kind of build your way up, and you're trying to expand your audience and stuff like that. Like, maybe venues themselves are not paying you, but that doesn't mean you can't, there isn't money to be made still, and that you can't get paid. But okay, hit me up on Twitter and I'll send it to you, because I don't know why it's not showing up in the chat.
We'll also put it in the comments after this.
In the comments in the description too. So it really does depend on number one, what your goals are. Number two, again, kind of like where you're at in your career and how much work has already been done. Because again, if you're hitting up a venue where you don't have a ton of performing experience, or they really haven't heard of you like that, like they might not be trying to pay you like that. But again, still doesn't mean there can't be money made and stuff like that and whatnot.
When it's like you and a bunch of your friends, you really have to think about that as an investment if it's early in your career. And what do you get out of it? You're getting exposure. Honestly, the experience, like I think sometimes artists expect to go on tour and it's like this big glamorous thing. And eventually it can get there. But like, you have to allow yourself to like learn and make mistakes, and that's all part of it. And you can document and tell your fans and share the stories, and you can do like, hey, we're at the In-N-Out on Venice Boulevard, come hang out with us and just see what you can play when you're on the road like that.
Right.
Or what's your favorite, I don't know, like wing spot, and we'll buy dinner to the first fan who meets us there. Like you can use it as not just thinking about the performance as the goal, but thinking about the experience as a way to connect and get to know your fans, but also to let fans get to know you. But y'all, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think the pressure of like,
it rarely is,
or in like sparkly lights often holds artists back from like, let's just do 2 cities. Let's get in the car, let's drive, let's see what happens. and just taking those risks, because it is an investment. And then there are ways to recoup your money, like getting email addresses so that you send the newsletter so that people buy your shit when you send them newsletters, or having merch with you.
Right.
Those probably, honestly, I would say the two most important things is collecting emails. So like have someone with an iPad who, when fans come up to you after the show and they want to take pictures, whether it's any kind of tour, and they want to take pictures, like be there, take your pictures, but have someone next to you who's like, yo, you want to sign up for their newsletter?
Right, right.
Like just collect, because promoters won't always give you that information.
There's still work that has to be done while you're touring. Like I think, like Nora said, like there's it's very easy to romanticize, I think, touring and whatnot. But that's a prime time. Even if you're not getting paid, it's a prime time to connect with people, to get contacts. And again, we keep bringing up the newsletter, but we're going to keep doing it because it's the easiest way to connect with people, especially afterwards. And everyone checks their email almost every day. So if you're able to get in front of your audience, especially after performance, when they've just seen you, that adrenaline's running, they're hype off of what they just saw. Like, man, like even if you walk out of like,
also,
yeah.
Sorry, Sto, but that's the second thing I was getting to. That's also why people will buy merch at your show, and like they're way more likely to buy merch at your show because they just saw you perform.
Exactly.
They're running high, and they were at this event. They had this experience, and so that's the second thing. You should always collect emails, and you should always have merch. And your merch, like you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to, but having something that people can give you money
tangibly
for,
to take with them.
$20 in your pocket. That's $15 in your pocket. That's 35, depending on what you're selling, right? In your pocket. But that also gives you a chance to connect with them. And they do it in that moment of like, oh, that was so amazing. I'm so moved. Yes, here's my email. Yeah, because you cannot rely on that. Hey, everybody, follow me at Nora Rahimian. All right, love you. Peace. Bye.
Yeah, let me spell that out real quick. Yeah, like there's no way. It's impossible. Like, and especially again, y'all got to remember, if you're performing, and listen, if I'm at a show, I'm lit up. So I'm not even gonna remember. Yeah, follow me at all these letters and numbers on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Like, I'm not gonna remember that. So if you're able to make that connection afterwards, or again, one of my favorite ones is like if you take pictures with people, and especially if they tag you afterwards, hit them up. God damn it, hit them up, because that's a prime example of someone who wants to be kept in touch with, and you should have their contact information.
Yeah. Another thing is when you take pictures and you're posting and you tell people, hey, tag my fans. Who are these people? And invite your community to be like, oh, Sto, is that you? Or, oh, and now people are engaging with one another. So these like activation type things. I think part of what we're getting at, and this is a little off topic, but I think it's really foundational. I think part of what we're getting at is you really want to think about your customer or your fan or your audience's journey and their experience with you, because that's where so what Sto said, that they're like in the moment, that they might be lit. So that's going to impact their decision making or their ability to fully follow through with something. Like just understanding how they're showing up in the spaces that they show up for you. And then your job as an artist, as a working artist, is to be responsive to that. And I think we can really do a whole episode on like customer mindset and customer journey, because the more you understand how your customer navigates through spaces and why they make decisions that they make, the better you're going to be able to frame things in a way that's going to meet their needs and get them excited. But we've definitely gone off topic from tours. It's all related. It's all
it's all definitely related, because I think, again, like, and even as we're doing this, like, it's like, I think this requires a part two, because I think there's so much that that either is assumed, or again, we talk all the time about how artists perceive their experience should be, and so again, you don't need permission to go on tour. You can literally hit up, like, even if you just hit up a few places in your state, that still counts. Like, and again, you can make that first move. Go to the venue, email the venue owner, or just go there yourself. Like, yo, can I talk to the person who handles shows and stuff like that? I know it's a lot. Like I do want to acknowledge that. Like, it is a lot to email someone to ask to perform, let alone go to the venue themselves and try to talk to the manager and stuff like that. That's a hard task. I get that. But you'll be able to get on tour and do all this stuff way sooner if you take that energy and do things yourself versus praying and hoping that either an agent picks you up or a manager picks you up or does the work for you or whatever, or that a label scoops you up and does the tour for you. Because even the labels, unless you're a big name, they're not going to do it for you either a lot of the time. So, making sure that you're also prepared. That's the only other thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned is that you've done the groundwork beforehand too.
One simple right? You'll be on Twitter all day. You'll be on Instagram all day. You'll be mindlessly scrolling. Look up venues in the cities that you want to go to.
Right.
Like,
and just hit them up.
Los Angeles venues and look at their Instagram. And, in the same way we talk about this with like hitting up journalists, you don't want to hit up venue. Like if it's a country music bar, maybe you shouldn't hit them up.
You shouldn't be rapping with the
like, or if it's like a classical music lounge, like maybe that's not the place that you should be performing. So do in the same way that we've talked about in doing research with journalists and press, do research, and you're on Instagram. So look up the venue and look at what other artists they've had. And maybe you reach out to an artist and say, hey, I saw that you were at this venue I wanted to be at. Do you happen to have the contact information for their booking agent so that you can come in with those relationships? So there's a lot of information at your fingertips. Doing your research will really help you so that you're not spamming venues with like, hey, I'm here, book me. But you're making intentional connections that will allow you to get on the stages that you want to get on. This really is a broad topic, and I think we've just touched the surface. So y'all, if you're watching this anytime in the future that's not today, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Tell us what's worked for you in booking tours or booking gigs or doing shows, or things that kind of you wished you had known. Drop that in the chat. I would love to see people kind of share their own experiences and lessons learned. Final words though.
Yeah, again, I think it is such a broad topic, and we've covered a lot of different things. But I really do if you really do just take away one thing, it's just you don't have to wait for permission to do a lot of these things that we talk about. And I bring that up so much because I saw a tweet the other day. I was like, what do artists need help with? And I kept seeing all these I need to be on more playlists, or I need to be on tour. It's like some of these things you can make happen on your own, and we don't have to wait for permission to get out there. So if you're prepared, your fan base, you have experience and stuff like that, you can do a whole tour of venues that people probably have never even heard of and still go home with money and still go home growing a fan base and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be this grand, multi-stadium, tour. And the only other thing I'll mention is don't sleep on overseas.
Yes, and overseas, I think is a whole other conversation.
Right.
I think there's some politics there to also be mindful of. People think they could just
don't just do that. Don't just
people think they can just show up and because they have a colonial mentality of what overseas looks like. So there's something, and I think we can talk about that separately. But
absolutely, there
are similar ways to go into new markets intentionally and thoughtfully. Exactly. And those markets might be outside of this country, outside of the U.S. And so if you've got questions about those, drop them in the bottom comments. I don't know what that was. Y'all take care of yourselves. Remember that music business is a marathon, not a sprint. So don't burn yourself out in the process. And we'll see you again in a couple weeks with another episode of Office Hours.
Make sure to follow us all on the Twitter, the Instagram and stuff. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like too. And again, make sure to leave a comment what works for you on tours, how you've gotten your tour dates and stuff like that. We'll be back in a couple weeks. All right. Peace. Bye.